Good afternoon, Chiefs fans. Darren Smith along with Steve Walsh here with you, and this is the Kansas City Chiefs Cheat Sheet. It's our pregame show as we get you prepared for today's matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the final regular season home game for 2021 for these Kansas City Chiefs. Steve, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. I want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each and every one of our followers who watch us each and every week.
Yes, and so looking forward to. Hope everybody had a happy and very blessed and safe Christmas on yesterday, and of course, New Year's next weekend. So make sure you all are safe and doing everything you can to bring in 2022 in a safe and pleasant manner. But Steve, we are here. The Chiefs 10-4 take on the 7-6-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the Steelers did the Chiefs a favor on last week after the Chiefs defeated the Los Angeles Chargers in LA on a Thursday night matchup. They were at that moment seated first in the conference, but of course because of a head-to-head loss to the Tennessee Titans. The Chiefs needed the Steelers to knock them off to kind of secure that, and of course for New England to lose as well. Both of those domino effects have happened. The Chiefs now control their own destiny as they are currently seated number one in the AFC, and of course, as Chiefs fans hope, all roads will go through Arrowhead Stadium for the fourth year in a row. But Steve, be that as it may, the Chiefs this week had a breakout, so to speak, of COVID-19. They will be without Travis Kelsey, amongst Lucas Niang, as well as Harrison Butker, and about six other players thus far. Your thoughts on the fact that the Chiefs will be out some of their most important players today?
You know what? If they were playing any other team, if they were playing, let's just say, they were playing Buffalo or they were playing a team that really mattered, right? Not saying that the Steelers don't matter, but if they were playing a team that could, if they could be affected by their guys that are out, I would have said, hey. This is going to be a game where Andy Reid and company needs to be campaigning that they at least hold off until Monday or Tuesday. Now, I know Andy doesn't roll like that. They're going to say to the media at least, next man up. But it is what it is, and I think they prepared for those guys to be back. Now, the ever-changing NFL COVID protocols, you never know how they're going to change and how they're going to affect your team. But just with the outbreak that they have or have had this past week, I really believe that this is going to be a game where it helps. It's going to do nothing but help this Chiefs offense. And the reason why I say that, and I know people were like raising eyebrows, how can it help? You're not going to have Travis Kelsey. Well, you're going to have other guys that are going to be able to step up, and those guys normally, folks face it, these same guys are in the NFL. They're one of not many in the world that are able to play the professional football at a professional level. So they're still guys that can play some ball. So they're not only going to be wanting to win the game, but they're also going to be wanting to put some good film on tape.
Well, and that's one of the things that we talked about this week is that the Chiefs do believe in the concept next man up, and what's most interesting about that is that this is the opportunity. Now we talked about this even going into the season when the Chiefs were looking for a solid number two wide receiver. They still haven't actually found that number two receiver just yet, but because Tyreek Hill is able, he tested out and he's able to come back and play in today's game, and
Hmm.
without Travis Kelsey, that does give someone else the opportunity. And Merry Christmas to you all who are wishing us that as well. But it does give players such as McCole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, even Noah Gray, who's a rookie, but will get a chance to get to get a lot of snaps and playing time today because Blake Bell is also out. It does give these players an opportunity to step up, contribute. Because look, these players over the last couple of seasons, especially Demarcus and McCole, they did have games instead. Especially if we remember back in 2019,
Hmm.
at the beginning of the season, in the first game, it was Tyreek Hill who got hurt in the Jacksonville game. The very next week, you and I we were out in Oakland, and Demarcus Robinson had a standout game, and then I think a couple weeks after that, McCole had a standout game. So these players are capable of doing just that. The Chiefs fans are hoping for is a little bit more consistency in what they do. And then, as you mentioned, because Kelsey is going to be without, it will force Patrick. And look, this is what Patrick did last year. Patrick actually spread the ball around last year. There were conversations that I've had with some of the players that they were like, their stats could be better, but Mahomes is throwing the ball to everybody. Well, this is what Chiefs fans are kind of hoping that Patrick does not only in today's game but going further, because you don't want defenses just eyeing in on Kelsey and Hill, because if so and nobody else steps up, that's going to put more pressure on Patrick in the running game, and if things aren't clicking, that could spell a loss for the Chiefs.
I agree, and you got to remember it's all about game plan too.
Yeah.
Other than that, first 15 that is scripted plays that Andy has drawn up, Patrick is really they were kind of just kind of drawing it up in the dirt, so to speak. They were playing backyard football. Now you all know when you're on the playground as kids, you have your friends, your buddies, who you're gonna always look for. If they're not open, then that's when you kind of deviate and go to some other guys who were picked up last, and to pick them when you line folks up. And it's like, all right, I got you. So I think by the time Patrick looks to other guys like Patrick and McCole and Byron Pringle and Josh Gordon, it's too late because the offensive line is already broken down and he has to scramble and throw the ball away. Or this year is taking sacks. So I think that next man up, it'll be good today just to see what kind of game plan Andy is drawing up, because I believe he did have to uh, kind of prepared two ways, a
Yeah.
plan A and plan B, if Tyreek and Travis Kelsey did not play.
One of the things, Steve, is that the Chiefs didn't have in the Chargers game that they'll have in today's game is they'll be with Chris Jones in this game. They'll also
Hmm.
be, as you mentioned before, with Josh Gordon. Those are two players that'll be back. I think Javarius Ward was initially in the protocol and tested out of it as well, so he'll be back. He'll be in today's game as well. So what we saw last week in Los Angeles, where the Chiefs they had a hard time getting after Herbert, but they also had a hard time stopping the run. With Chris Jones back, you kind of get the defense back at his apex more or less. Oh, and they also get Willie Gay back as well. He didn't play in last week's game. So those additions to the defense, there were subtractions on last week. How does that fare against the Steelers team that while they might not be strong offensively, their offensive line has been rattled lately. Their running game, has been anemic. But when push comes to shove, they still have that Super Bowl winning quarterback, who, if this is to be his last season, Steve, can still summon up spirits of Ben Roethlisberger from the grave that could upset Kansas City in today's game if the Chiefs aren't careful.
You mentioned those guys down front, getting Chris Jones back to be able to stop the run. I think that's going to be huge. However, they're going to miss their leading tackler in linebacker Nick Bolton. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
going to be
Nick
playing
Bolton
today,
is
so I
out. Yeah.
think I think that's going to be huge. I mean, Nick Bolton leads all guys on this Chiefs team, this defensive side of the ball, by like 48 tackles
Hmm.
or something crazy like that. But so it's gonna be another guy that's gonna have to step up, and who that will be, who knows. But I think the guys down front, they will most definitely make it easier on the secondary and on those linebackers, because you got to remember, Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to try to get the ball out fast.
Oh yeah.
He's not going to sit there and hold the ball, because he's not as mobile as he was, let's say, 10, 15 years ago. On paper, this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, I mean, they really don't surprise you. I mean, they really don't stand out, jump off the paper. But I think they're better than what they are, even though Ben Roethlisberger is on his last year as a pro football quarterback.
Well, look, Mike Tomlin, who is the Steelers head coach, he's old school. He
Mhm,
believes in run the football, smash my football, and defense. Defensively, T.J. Watt, even with cracked ribs, is going to play
mhm.
into this game. That's just how big, because the Steelers, they still have an outside shot of the playoffs. That's why this week on the shows, I would tell Sterling, can't count Pittsburgh out, because just, I mean, look, Chiefs fans depended on them to knock off the Titans last week. And the Titans, we've seen now. Look, we've seen how they've played this week. I mean, they ended up beating San Francisco Thursday night. When
Mhm.
Chiefs were hoping that they were going to take another L. So, I mean, this is still the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, this is still one of the elite organizations in the NFL. And no matter how bad they look, they can still surprise you when you least expect it.
I agree. I agree. However, the defensive side of the ball has me worried a little bit. Of course, the Pittsburgh Steelers, because you're not going to have Lucas Niang. You're going to have Andrew Wiley,
Mm.
who is going to be having that one-on-one matchup with T.J. Watt. Now, you said T.J. Watt has the cracked ribs. I really think, even with cracked ribs, he's a much better than Andrew Wiley. Of course, trying to block him on the other side of the ball. So that's going to be a key focus, I think, for fans to watch today, is that matchup between Wiley and T.J. Watt. And I believe Patrick Mahomes kind of realizes that, and we'll see what Andy Reid has drawn up. But uh, I don't think it'll affect what the Chiefs want to do today. I really don't. Now, granted, they do have Tyreek Hill back, still no Travis Kelsey, but I, had Tyreek Hill not be playing, then it'd been a different ball game. I said that the Chiefs probably, would, uh, if you had to give a score out there, I said that they would probably, it'd be less than a touchdown. But um, with Tyreek, I think it's gonna be what the line is, which is like 10.5 or so. So I think they'll be fine.
We're a little under 45 minutes away from kickoff. Steve Walsh, Darren Smith here with you. We're live inside of G.E.H.A. Field, inside of Arrowhead Stadium in the press box, where the Chiefs will be hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers with a 3:25 p.m. kickoff on CBS. Steve, Andy Reid is 4-6 against the Steelers. Mike Tomlin
Hmm.
has a winning record of 6-3 against these Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the last time these two teams played uh, in Arrowhead, was well, regular season was in 2017, where the Steelers won 19-13 over the Chiefs. Now, the last time these two teams played in the regular season was Patrick Mahomes' first game as a starter in the NFL. I'm sorry, first game as a regular starter in the NFL in his MVP season, where he threw 6 touchdowns in that game, 42-37 against Steelers. I remember
That
that
was
you
in
were there.
Heinz Field,
Yeah, that
right?
was in high. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
remember you were at that game. Now, Mahomes threw for a season high 410 yards last week with 3 touchdowns. Again, two to Kelsey, one to Tyreek. Who steps up though? Again, we know what Tyreek can do. We know what he's about. But with the opportunity that it presents itself for other players to step up, who is your key person that you think will grab the bull by the horns and run with it in today's game and be that second player that dominates in this game?
You said it. You said it. Grab the bull by the horns and run with it. And I think they're going to grab the ball and run with it. And that's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The Pittsburgh Steelers have one
Mm.
of the worst run defenses in the league. They have a couple of, I think, two or three of their linebackers are out today, so they're not going to be able to stop the run. Even though this Chiefs is not a run first team, I think to take some of the burden off of trying to get Tyreek Hill to run down the field and take some of the burden off that receiving group. I think you're gonna get a big dose of Tyreek Hill and Williams today. So I, look, you're gonna see them try to run the ball down the throats of this Pittsburgh Steelers defense.
Well, that does sound good in theory, but we also know Andy Reid is kind of anemic to the run game, no matter
hmm
how successful it is.
hmm Sometimes
Just
it calls for it, and sometimes I think he's learned over the past few years that that's what he needs to do, and he'll do it.
just to give you all a scoring update again, we talked about the Chiefs win against the Chargers and how Chargers fans that night were talking about just how lucky the Chiefs were. Well, the Chargers, as we talked about before the air, can't seem to handle success very well at all, as they are losing right now, 34-23 to the Houston Texans. So if they lose this game, they may drop out of the playoff contention that currently at the moment. Of course, they can still make it in, but
That's crazy to me. Just how tight people don't understand just how tight of winning and losing it is in this
yeah,
AFC.
yeah, no, truly. So they're losing. It's about 2:32 left to go. Houston just scored a touchdown. Other scores in the NFL, you got the Falcons. You got the Bengals who are knocking off the Ravens again. I said the Ravens were going on a tailspin. That's what they're doing. The Bengals. So next week's game is going to be huge between the Chiefs and the Bengals. So if Kansas City can hold on and win today, sets up a big matchup, a big 1 o'clock matchup locally where we'll be at between the Chiefs and the Bengals.
And also Buffalo. Buffalo's winning right now 26-21, and
Yeah.
New England's come back.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, so there's again a lot of moving parts that we're looking at right here. But as you talked about, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's had 50 plus scrimmage yards over the last three out of his last 4 games. But on the defense side of football, I do want to talk about what we've seen. We've talked about the addition of Melvin Gordon, but how big of a loss for Nick Bolton? I know he tested positive this week
Mhm.
again, but getting Willie Gay back. So for me, it's like you plug and play, plugging Willie in to the role of Nick Bolton in today's game just because of he's out. But yeah, I mean, defensively, you do get Chris Jones back, so you are able with front four able to get that pressure up against Ben Roethlisberger. Now he's not too mobile. We know that
Mhm.
he is a big guy to bring down. So I mean, so if you get to him, you got to hit him and make sure he stays down. If Chiefs fans remember, with Travarius Ward being back, there was an offensive player on the Steelers side goes by the name of Juju Smith-Schuster,
Mhm.
kind of spurring the Chiefs in the in free agency. Is this could this be a game where they kind of put the helmet to old Juju for and look, one other thing I do want to ask, do you think we'll see any Steelers on the Chiefs logo today?
No, Juju Smith-Schuster's out for the year.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, he's
Oh,
not
too
he's
bad.
not playing in today's game.
Too bad.
But
I wanted
yeah,
that smoke.
I think you're gonna try to Najee Harris with last week at 140 yards. But he still hasn't been that player, that breakout running back this season that the Steelers had hoped for. He's only averaging, I think, 3 to 4 yards per per carry. Clyde is even actually averaging more yards per carry than Najee Harris. So I think that is one of the guys that they look forward to that they're going to have to stop is Najee Harris. Also, I mean, you still have Chase Claypool, who has developed into that number one wide receiver. Also, James Washington, who's going to be. They've developed a lot of chemistry over these past few weeks with Big Ben, and I think he's going to want to get the ball out fast, and he doesn't want to see Chris Jones, Frank Clark, and Melvin Ingram in his face too much.
Yeah, I know you and I we were kind of spying on Ben right now, who was throwing some passes to his receivers. One of the things that I'm noticing is he's not trying to throw the ball more than 15 yards
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
down the
He, and,
field.
and 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 he doesn't have it like he used to. Like I said, this Pittsburgh Steelers team is not the same team that we've seen over there. Look, they've had a long time where they've gotten a lot of wins in the NFL. Chiefs fans know back, what playoff game was when they Le'Veon Bell took them for like what 200 yards or
Yeah.
so. But yeah, it's not the same Pittsburgh Steelers team.
Curious, Steve, as we wind down, we're looking at this from a prism. Of course, the Chiefs are currently sitting in the number one seed.
Mhm.
What's going to be? I would ask you the three keys in today's game for Kansas City, and I'll follow you. But three keys for Kansas City to win this game. I'm not saying they have to win convincingly, but at least get out of here with the W.
The first would have to be don't try to play bad foot. Don't let the Steelers bring you down to playing bad football. Because if
Don't play on
we,
their levels,
yeah,
basically.
because you think about how this Pittsburgh Steelers team has won games. They've made teams play bad, and teams have beat themselves. So don't let them bring you down to their level, and don't play. Don't beat yourself, so to speak. That would be the first. The second would be some guys need to step up on the offensive side of the ball. Look, this offense hasn't been the offense that we seen over in 2019, even last year. It's been a little struggle, so to speak, for Patrick Mahomes and trying to find his way. And you had the turnovers, things like that. So that number one and number two would kind of go hand in hand with the turnovers and playing bad football. And then three, I would just say the defense needs to keep their foot on the pedal, keep their foot on the gas, and don't let up. Steve Spagnuolo is going to call up some crazy stuff, and I think that the defense is going to continue on and help this team get a win today.
For me, I think it's going to be vital. The protection of Patrick Mahomes against this defense that we see. Look, as long as T.J. Watt's on the field and he's trying to break Michael Strahan's sack record, the protection of Patrick Mahomes is going to be vital
Mhm,
in today's ball game. Now, Lucas Niang is out in today's game, but you still have the core four that have been there all season long. From Orlando Brown, who made the Pro Bowl, Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, who was picked as an alternate, and Trey Smith. So I mean, those four have been there. I expect Mike Remmers or Andy Wiley to step up. Not that I think of Mike Remmers, I think Wiley's out as well. So
mhm.
I expect them to step up and not lose anything. As you said about the running game, I'm interested to see what the Chiefs' first 15 scripted plays are, how they go about doing it. But again, the defense, this is a good chance for them to see what Ben has left. Steve Spagnuolo's been able to dial up pressure. Even though we may not, well, we saw pressure, but didn't seem like they really got to Justin Herbert last week because Chris Jones went out with him back in, knowing that this is not a mobile quarterback. It really shouldn't be any reason why Steve does not dial it up and just go all out many a times against Ben in today's ball game. And then finally on the third side of football, I think special teams. I know we don't speak about it much, but
Mhm,
Harrison Bucker out.
mhm.
I think Tommy Townsend is
Yeah,
out
his
as
brother
well.
Johnny Town is gonna be
Yeah,
playing in
so
place.
so I think that's going to be key that we haven't talked about is special teams and what effect the kicking game
Yeah,
may have in today's ball game. So if the Chiefs offense gets out to a slow start, especially if they're in field goal range, but they can't convert on a third down to extend the play, I think that's going to be something that we need to watch out for.
I agree. Because you think about we listen to Dave Tobe and talk about special teams. They didn't even put in the special teams game plan because they didn't know who they were going to have. So he said it would be a last minute kind of deal. But you're going to have that new kicker. He did come over earlier. in the week and kick some field goals inside of Arrowhead because Dave Tope said, hey, the wind that day, that particular day, I think it was what Wednesday,
Mhm.
that he said he came over Tuesday. He came over that same weather was supposed to be the same weather that we got today as far as wind goes. So I think I just look, if like I said earlier in the show, if there was another team that they were playing, I think that would be a worry. Look, you know what your situation is, so you don't want to put your team, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, you don't want to put your team in a position where they're going to have to kick a field goal to win the game. Or to tie it up. You don't want to put your team in that situation. Also, you don't want to put your team in a situation where they're backed up in your own goal line and have to punt the ball. You just don't. So knowing that you have a couple of people that are in that position, so to speak, I think they'll be fine. You may see them go for it on a fourth down, which they wouldn't tend to normally do, but I think they'll be okay when you look at how the kicking game is going to face today.
See, one of the things I do want to make mention to our audience who are watching online, um, Justin Herbert just had a pick six, so
Mm.
they're trailing 41-23. So if I remember correctly, and I have to just pull up something from the NFL. If by chance this game or the score holds, I believe the Chiefs will actually clinch a playoff berth before before they kick off, and then they could also, if I remember correctly, they could also win the division
Mhm.
as well.
If they win today, they'll win the division. But huh, it's gonna be interesting, man, because you kind of are creating your own destiny, so to speak. If you win this game, you win next week. You should have sold up this whole AFC #1 spot, and that's a good position you want to be in. But it's not a position where you want to have to sit back if you lose this game and have to sit back and kind of scoreboard watch, so to speak, and hope other teams lose.
So yeah, so Chiefs win. Chargers, who are about to lose, they take the best. So even if the Chargers were to lose, the Chiefs would not not necessarily clinch a playoff, but they still have to win. But
Yeah.
they win. Chargers, who are about to lose, and they are going to lose. So Chiefs win today. They'll win the division title at 11-4, and then of course next week they could technically, possibly, with the Patriots
Mm.
losing, and depending on what the Titans do next week, they could actually clinch the #1 seed on next week. And if they wanted to, which I would advise them not to, that would be the rest players
And
going
and
into that
and,
last game.
and one thing, I just watched Elliott Fry try to kick a 40. I think it was a 45-yard field goal. He hit the right crossbar just practicing. So that's gonna be. I just don't think that they're gonna want to put him in that kind of situation.
So you're saying the
And
Chiefs are going for two today?
they may, and he's lining up for another. I think that's what 10, 20, 30, 35 yarder.
He
Did he
just
make
made
that
that
one?
one.
Okay, yeah. So look, you're gonna want to make sure that you don't have to put your guys in that kind of situation to where you're gonna have to kick the ball.
Well, look, we are 30 minutes out from kickoff. Kansas City Chiefs are hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers late afternoon game here Sunday. Now, look, if you haven't gotten full yet from your turkey and ham and your blender breakfast, lunch, and dinner from Christmas yesterday, you can always go by, get that double decker, that double deuce over at Gates Barbecue, one of their 5 locations around the city. There's you get your 2 ribs, get you a couple of sides, all for $12.50. Well worth it. Steve, as we look into today's game, knowing what's on the line for the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, the Chiefs
Mhm.
already know what's ahead of them. They've been fortunate. I think 2019. I think 2018 and 2019, they kind of lucked themselves into getting home field advantage throughout the playoffs.
Mhm.
But knowing last year and knowing what the situation is now, going from 3-4 to where they are now, winning 7 games in a row, looking to make it 8. What does Kansas City do today, and what's the score coming out this game?
I think the Chiefs will beat up on this Pittsburgh Steelers team 30. I would say they score 30, at least 30 points. 17 maybe. Pittsburgh Steelers, so maybe 31-17. I think that'll be my score. They'll definitely cover. But I think with everything that happened this week, you like I said, you're gonna have guys that are going to step up. They're going to want to put good film out there for other teams. They're playing for jobs. When you have guys that have their back up against the wall and that are able to show what they can do, it's either put up or shut up. And you're gonna have these guys that are gonna definitely try to put up today and have some good film going into the season and into next year.
Well, the Chargers, they have just scored a touchdown. It's 41-29 with the extra point, a 2-point conversion come. It's not going to matter with 34 seconds left, Steve. This is going to be the end of the road for them today. But be that as it may, I do have Kansas City win. I have them winning, I believe, 28-13. I might have had 31 something, 31-13 earlier this week. I do see the Steelers getting at least one touchdown, a couple of field goals. But be that as it may, I do see Kansas City winning this game, clinching the division, going into next week's game against Cincinnati. That's going to have a lot riding on them. Obviously, if you can get out of this game today unscathed, next week's game, which could possibly get flexed too. I mean, you don't know with NBC with such a big matchup between two division leaders, it could get flexed to a Sunday night game.
I don't think they can have any more Sunday night games. They can have any more night games.
They can't have any more night games as a home team. On the road, they can do that.
Okay.
But be that as may, let's hope so, because hey, I'm all for it. Even though I don't like Cincinnati like that, we'll see what it do. So we both have the Chiefs winning. We both have them covering. Steve, before we get out of here, you got the little Christmas spirit going with that tie. What say you, man? Who styled you today?
First and foremost, I want to say happy birthday to my son Peyton. Turns 10 today, so happy
birthday,
Peyton. Day after Christmas, baby. So December 26th, today is his day. We will be celebrating after this game. But also shout out to Dillard's, my friends over there, Dillard's on the Rosa. Make sure you go check them out. They have a lot of after holiday deals. If you didn't get your significant other or your special friend something for holiday, go check them out. They'll definitely take care of you. See my guy Jeff over at Dillard's at Zona Rosa.
All right, and of course, as always, special thanks to Todd White of Todd's Clothier and Taylor Suits. Happy birthday once again to little Peyton Walls. Hopefully, he'll have a smile on his face. Every time I see him, he's always frowning up. Steve, you got to do something about that too, Steve. He's always going to be frowning about something. Like, dude, 10 years old. You lived to be a decade. On my 10th birthday, I got baptized. We know how that turned out. But look, I want to thank Todd's Clothiers as well for always keeping me looking nice. Of course, we'll be dressed to the nines next week while we're in Cincinnati. I also want to thank Gates Barbecue, of course. Again, if you get a chance, go out there. They got 5 locations, and a shout out to them as well. I was told they had record sales Christmas Eve, so I'm a little jealous because I know I contributed to that to that record sales. So hopefully they don't dip into my college fund once again. But be that as it may, following the game, of course, Chiefs presser will be via Zoom this time around as the COVID ticks with the new protocols with the NFL. They'll be on Zoom, so we won't be there in the press room going further this season, during the regular season or the playoffs, but we'll still carry it for you. So until then, tomorrow night though, join us on our respective channels on Facebook and YouTube for the Red Hour with myself, Steve Walls, DJ Q, and Sean Tyler. Will be live down at the Sorays Steak and Oyster House, bringing you post-game coverage of today's matchup between the Chiefs and the Steelers. So until then, we're about 25 minutes away from kickoff. For Steve Walls, I'm Darren Smith, and follow Steve Walls on social media platforms at Steve Walls KC. You can also follow me on social media at Darren Smith WHB on all social media platforms. And so until then, when we come back to you next Sunday, live from Cincinnati, this is the Kansas City Chiefs Cheat Sheet. We are out of here.